Have you ever shared something personal with someone, only to notice that their behavior toward you suddenly changed? Maybe they started pushing your boundaries, teasing you about something sensitive, or treating you like you were easier to control. It can feel confusing, and sometimes even painful. But there's a psychological reason this happens. When people discover what makes you vulnerable, they learn what triggers your emotions and influences your decisions. The good news? Your weaknesses don't have to become someone else's power. Point 1. People test what you allow. Imagine you tell a friend that you hate confrontation. The next time there's an argument, they become slightly more aggressive. You stay quiet. They notice. A few weeks later, they push a little further. You still avoid confrontation. Eventually, they may learn, if I push hard enough, this person will back down. This is how boundaries can disappear gradually. Not because you suddenly became weaker, but because someone discovered that there were no consequences for crossing them. Human behavior is shaped by reinforcement. When a behavior repeatedly produces a desired result, people are more likely to repeat it. So if someone pressures you and you always give in, they learn that pressure works. If someone guilt trips you and you always apologize, they learn that guilt works. If someone becomes angry and you immediately surrender, they learn that anger works. That's why one of the most powerful things you can do is change the pattern. You don't need to become aggressive. You simply need to become consistent. Instead of immediately saying yes, say, let me think about it. Instead of defending yourself for 10 minutes, say, I understand you see it differently. Instead of giving in because someone is upset, calmly keep your original decision. Your goal isn't to win the interaction. Your goal is to teach people that your boundaries aren't negotiable just because they discovered where you're sensitive. And that leads to something even deeper. Point 2. Some people confuse vulnerability with weakness. Being vulnerable can create connection, but vulnerability in the wrong environment can create exposure. There's a difference. Imagine meeting someone new. You tell them about your insecurities, your fears, your past disappointments, and the things that hurt you. You might feel closer afterward. But the other person now has information about your emotional pressure points. A healthy person thinks, I should be careful with this information. An unhealthy person may think, I know exactly what affects this person. That's why trust should be built gradually. You don't have to reveal everything just because someone is willing to listen. Privacy isn't dishonesty, it's emotional boundaries. Think about your home. You don't give a stranger a key simply because they seem friendly. Your emotional life deserves the same principle. Not everyone needs access to every room inside your mind. And here's the important part. You don't have to become secretive. You simply need to become selective. Share deeper things with people who have demonstrated consistency, respect, empathy, and discretion. Because trust isn't created by what someone promises. Trust is created by what someone repeatedly proves. Point 3. People may change because their perception changes. Sometimes someone doesn't actually become worse. Their behavior changes because their perception of you changes. Before they knew your weakness, they may have seen you as confident. After learning that you're afraid of rejection, they might interpret your behavior differently. Suddenly, your kindness looks like approval-seeking. Your silence looks like insecurity. Your patience looks like fear. Your flexibility looks like weakness. And this is where perception becomes powerful. People don't respond only to who you are. They also respond to the story they create about who you are. But here's something you need to remember. Their interpretation isn't your identity. If someone discovers that criticism hurts you, that doesn't mean you're incapable of handling criticism. If someone discovers you dislike confrontation, that doesn't mean you can never stand up for yourself. A weakness becomes dangerous when you turn it into a permanent identity. Instead, treat it as information. You can say, I struggle with confrontation, but I'm learning to communicate clearly. I care deeply about what people think, but I'm learning not to let every opinion control me. I sometimes overthink, but I'm becoming better at making decisions. That mindset changes everything. You're no longer saying, "This is who I am." You're saying, "This is something I'm working on." And that difference is enormous. Point 4. The biggest power shift happens when you react. Here's one of the most important lessons in this entire video. People may learn your weakness, but they don't automatically gain control over it. Your reaction determines whether the information becomes power. Think about someone who knows you hate being ignored. They suddenly stop responding. If you panic, send multiple messages, over-explain, and desperately try to get their attention, they've learned something. They've learned that withdrawal controls you. But imagine another response. You notice it, you feel uncomfortable, but you continue your day. You don't chase, you don't create a dramatic explanation. You simply let their behavior provide information. Now the dynamic changes. You're still human. You still feel the emotion. But the emotion doesn't dictate your behavior. That's emotional strength. Not becoming emotionless. Becoming capable of feeling something without immediately obeying it. And this is a skill you can practice. The next time someone triggers a familiar weakness, pause. Don't respond immediately. Take a breath. Ask yourself, what am I feeling? Then ask, what action would I take if I weren't afraid? That second question can reveal a lot. Point 5. Some people will use your weakness, and that's information too. This part may hurt. Sometimes discovering someone's reaction to your weakness is actually useful. Imagine you tell someone you're uncomfortable with something. A good person may respect it. A careless person may dismiss it. A manipulative person may deliberately use it. That tells you something about them. If someone repeatedly uses your insecurity to embarrass you, control you, or get what they want, don't spend all your energy trying to prove that you're strong. Pay attention. Their behavior is giving you information. You don't have to expose yourself repeatedly just to test someone's character. You can simply observe who respects your no, who keeps pushing, who listens when you're uncomfortable, who remembers your boundaries, who turns private information into jokes, who makes you feel safe enough to be human. These observations matter because sometimes the lesson isn't, I need to become stronger so nobody can hurt me. Sometimes the lesson is, I need to become better at choosing who gets access to me. That's a completely different kind of strength. At the end of the day, having weaknesses doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. What truly matters is whether those weaknesses control your decisions. The right people will respect your vulnerability, while the wrong people may try to use it against you. So don't become afraid of opening up. Become wiser about who you trust, what you share, and how you respond when someone pushes your boundaries. You don't need to hide every sensitive part of yourself. You simply need to stop handing other people the power to define you. Know your triggers, protect your boundaries, and keep growing. That's real strength.